I've been sitting here staring at this picture sometime since the Westbrook deal went down, just thinking, man, I've really watched the NBA flip on its head in my own lifetime. I'm just imagining someone telling me in 2012 as I'm in the 12th grade watching LeBron versus Westbrook and KD in the finals, hey, 10 years from now, LeBron and Westbrook, they're going to be playing for the Lakers, yeah, Kobe's franchise. They're going to be with this kid that gets drafted in a couple of months and they're going to be in the NBA finals. Okay, that part, that's not written. The Lakers in the finals is not written, but it's also not a stretch at all. That's really what the conversation is right now, because people are wondering, does this actually do something positive for the Lakers? Does it do anything positive for the Lakers? Can Westbrook and LeBron actually work? And Anthony Davis too. The deal that was being discussed right before this involved Buddy Hield, and I did the Twitter poll where the majority of voters said they should have pulled the trigger on the Hield deal as opposed to Westbrook. The logic behind that is not hard to follow. Russ is obviously the more talented player, but being that Hield is a shooter on a team with LeBron, it probably would have fit better. Because here we are, almost exactly 2 years later, discussing the same thing that I was discussing in a barbershop talk then. Does Westbrook fit on his new team? It's crazy, it does not feel like 2 years since I did this with James Harden and Russ. When that deal happened, I was a bit perplexed. Of course, the big joke was he and Harden taking the ball away from each other. It was like a picture I think that Shady made with that using 2K. Yet the vibes were pretty much the same then as they are now. Oh, this is cool, Westbrook is playing with Harden. Today it's, oh, this is cool, Westbrook is playing with LeBron. How does it actually work? Well, I immediately started as soon as they said this deal was gonna happen, because we knew hours before it was pretty much done. I started thinking about how Westbrook and Harden went. Of course, Harden, different player than LeBron, however, they are both playmakers, use the ball a lot. Harden was shooting from the perimeter with the ball much more than LeBron will be and has been. So you throw Westbrook into that fray and the thought became immediately, things are just gonna get harder for Harden. No pun intended. They're gonna sag off of Westbrook, leave him open, maybe put a defender in the vicinity of James, and that's kind of how the playoffs ended up going. But I have to jog memories a little bit here, because if you can remember, before the NBA got shut down, I believe the Rockets had started to find some type of groove. I don't remember exactly if they went on a losing streak right before it got shut down, but there was a stretch where they got rid of any semblance of a big man down low, aka Capella, and Westbrook and Harden started to look interesting. Maybe they weren't going to go win a championship, especially with the Lakers in the conference and the Clippers, but they started to look like there was some serious potential there, and Westbrook was going off himself. He had all the space in the world to do so. Of course, that was the Rockets' micro ball, so that was the most space he'd ever had in his career, and probably the most space he will ever have had in his career. You come back after the break, he's got the quad problem, he'd caught corona, was not the same Westbrook. We get the famous quote of him saying he's just kind of running around. You get the famous picture of the Lakers leaving him completely open during the playoffs, and they are gentlemen swept. He's now on his second team since then, played for Washington, so these are the Lakers. How does it work where it's not just LeBron you have to adjust to, where in the Rockets it was like just James Harden? It's not just LeBron here, it's also AD. Well, first of all, in my eyes, this means AD to the 5. A lot, right? Not exactly sure what they're doing in terms of free agency, because they did, I didn't even go over the terms of the deal. Yeah, they got rid of quite a bit. They traded Kuzma, saw that one coming. Caldwell Pope, Montrezl Harrell, some picks. So they got rid of 3 players, 3 bodies that they were actually using, well, depending on the series. They got 1 player in return. So I'm sure there'll be some cheap pickups this summer, probably just guys, just role players where the only role will be shooting, I'm going to assume. Whatever it is though, we've been saying for a while AD should play more 5, defensive reasons and offensive reasons. Now I'm going to assume Andre Drummond is not coming back. No clue where he's going in the NBA, but that's a different conversation. Yeah, for some reason he ends up playing for the Lakers again and he and Westbrook get minutes on the floor with LeBron and AD. I just won't even watch the games. I'll quit. But that's not going to happen, so don't have to worry about that. In any case, I would guess that's the first order of business, because I don't see the Lakers trotting out a 50-year-old Marc Gasol in the starting lineup. It's not the defender that he once was. Sure, he can spread the floor, so I guess you could just kind of sit him out there, but at the 5, I think you would like the things that AD can do more, instead of just putting Gasol out there so he can sit on the 3-point line and let LeBron and Westbrook drive. Maybe there'll be a lineup with that, but he's not going to be the starting center, is he? So the 5 situation is going to be crucial to how this works. As far as LeBron and Westbrook specifically, the other thing I did when I heard this deal was going down might sound weird because it's not a one-to-one comparison, but I immediately pulled up some LeBron and Wade highlights, and specifically half-court highlights, not just the alley-oops that doesn't tell me anything. I wanted to see what they did in the half court and how they played off each other. Of course, it was a little bit different because they were on opposite sides of the wings. Wade was playing shooting guard. Russ is actually point. Gonna be interesting to see how that works with who initiates what, especially because Westbrook, even last season, he just did a lot with the ball. So that's gonna be a thing. But I specifically brought up those highlights because Wade was not a three-point shooter. And back then in 2010 when they got together, nobody was talking about that. Spacing has become such a big deal with the Warriors revolutionizing basketball and what was already happening in the 2010s. When LeBron and Wade and Bosh got together in 2010, nobody was saying, oh, Wade doesn't shoot that well and he's on the floor with LeBron. How are they going to figure this out? It was more so trying to figure out how two alphas like that were going to work. And then Chris Bosh as well. Of course, once the Mavericks started zoning up on them in 2011, we kind of figured out, oh, hey, this is kind of an issue. Somewhat. They got past it though. Thing is, Wade and Bron were two ultimate slashers when they first got together. So Westbrook is not prime Wade. LeBron is not Miami Heat LeBron, although he hasn't had some massive fall off as he should have had by now. But they were able to do great things, especially after 2011 where Wade just says this is your team. Bron becomes more of the initiator. It's a lob fest between those two. You get a lot of good action where either one of them are cutting. Wade is able to destroy from mid-range. A whole lot of things that I don't see LeBron and Westbrook really replicating. Again, not a one-to-one comparison. I just think that there are some things that Bron and Wade did to coexist that Bron and Westbrook will also need to do. Of course, another key difference is the Heat always had a shooting point guard. So Bron small forward, Wade shooting guard. You had Chalmers there, Norris Cole. He had spacing around the floor as well late in the later years. So yeah, a lot of things the Lakers don't currently have. And even if they did have a shooting point guard, I'm not sure you're going to be getting a backcourt where Russ is playing the two a whole lot. So yeah, in other words, there probably are some nuggets for them to dig up from the Bron and Wade days to try to make this work, but I haven't even started talking about him just being a third option and how that might work since Anthony Davis is the second best player on the team, and Westbrook has never really been known for his off ball, so there's that. And B, this is not a new trade. We've been hearing about this for a couple of days. I hadn't said a whole lot, but in my mind, I'd been thinking for a while, like Westbrook and LeBron. Just knowing that LeBron excels mostly when he has spacing. Cavaliers, you have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. They managed to win a championship. We already went over the Heat spacing. Hell, even in the very early LeBron days with the Cavaliers, we're talking about 9 and 10. They were a good regular season team because they played defense, but they also had guys that were shooting as LeBron was penetrating. Talking Delonte West, Mo Williams. They weren't built for the playoffs clearly, but to excel and win 60 games, it was not just LeBron and his 30 points a game or whatever. They were actually a well-built regular season roster. So as of today, we'll see what happens with the roster, but as of today, I'm not that high on the Westbrook and Lakers pairing. The positives that I was thinking about is, of course, Westbrook is going to bring it every night. In transition, it'll be cool because Russ is not washed. He does a lot of bad things. There are a lot of bad qualities that come with him, but he's clearly not just a washed up shell of himself as Twitter might lead you to believe. He also has never been like the key to a team being a championship team or winning a championship. It's been close, but it's never. When Westbrook was getting traded a couple of years ago, that's what we were kind of thinking. Where can Westbrook go where you say this is the team, or this is the piece that this team is missing? And it was very hard to come up with that answer. It still kind of is. Given the situation of the Western Conference though, the Lakers should still probably be favored to come out of the West. We'll see what else happens. Free agency hasn't even started yet, but you're looking at Kawhi Leonard probably not playing this year. Jamal Murray is going to come back super late, if at all, and even if he does, the Nuggets in their current state still aren't favored over the Lakers. They never have been. So that's two major players right there that are already kind of at a disadvantage. The Suns are going to come back, but y'all know where I sit on that. I thought LA had them in the first round if they were healthy. Dallas has got their fair share of problems to work out before Luka can really take them to legitimate contention. Utah, as long as Rudy Gobert is a cornerstone of what they're doing, I will never trust them. I'm struggling to come up with real roadblocks for the Lakers other than them just figuring this out, which with LeBron on the team, if they're healthy, you can kind of bet on that happening, I guess. Past that, who knows? Probably going to run into a healthy Nets in the finals. Westbrook's decision making has been questionable throughout his career as a point guard. It's pretty much always been questionable in terms of shot selection, late game shot selection. He's a headstrong player. I love him, but this is going to be interesting to see A, who they sign, and B, what the X's and O's look like. There's a lot to figure out, but the conference is in their favor. If I have another positive, is that you have another guy that's not a big man that can create, that's not LeBron. So in lineups where LeBron isn't playing, but maybe it's Westbrook and AD, maybe that's where you'll see him be a little bit more of himself, for better or for worse. But that's a point of attack that they did not have last year. It's going to be pretty cool to see that that in the minutes that LeBron is load managing, I guess you would say. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to say. Most people are confused on what it's going to look like. The big narrative question, of course, is this a super team? Somebody asked me that while I was on the stream. I take the cop-out answer and say on paper it's a super team, but there are a lot of questions. It's not like this is prime 2017 Westbrook, but he's not washed either. Nobody on the Lakers roster, sorry, out of those three, nobody's washed. Out of star players that LeBron has played with, I believe this is going to be the most difficult to figure out. Of course, Wade and Braun playing together damn near in their prime when they first joined forces, that was something to figure out. However, you knew that they could. With this, I've just seen so many Westbrook seasons at this point in my life. I've had the same questions for so long. All I can really say is that off the merit of the Western Conference being what it is right now, the Lakers can make the finals, even if they aren't a perfect marriage. But yeah, I would have never put this duo together in my head. Let's see what they do with the rest of the team. Let me know what you think about this pairing in the comment section. Do you think it's gonna work? How far do you think they can go? Do you think there is a different trade the Lakers should have made? Be sure to hit the like button and sub if you enjoyed, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops. Appreciate you watching, and I will see you whenever Ben Simmons gets traded this summer.